If I take this supplement, or if I follow this strategy or this diet or this protocol, will it resolve my insomnia, my fatigue, or my hot flushes? And the answer is it really depends on so many factors, right? People look at things on a physical level. If I follow this strategy or I take this supplement or I take this medication, the result will be this. And there are things that are happening on an energetic level that may be working against you. I did a workshop on this in my community, and my team were telling me, we can hear people in people's language, that there's limitations there. And so this is a really important topic. If you feel like you want to look at other factors and rather than just the physical level, things on like what I call the 3D level, the diet, the supplements, the labs, the routines, right? But there's something that's happening on an energetic level that's even more powerful, just as powerful as changing your diet. That may seem a bit far-fetched, but really I've seen how much this plays out in people's results. So first of all, I want to start you off with a quote from Bruce Lee, who I think was something like very supernatural. Let's be honest. He did amazing work and amazing things, and he really had control or influenced very much over his mind. And he said, don't speak negatively about yourself, not even as a joke. Your body doesn't know the difference. He said, words are energy and cast spells. That's why it's called spelling. Change the way you speak about yourself and you can change your life. What you're not changing, you're also not choosing. So that's really powerful, right? So words will show, your language, what you say. When I hear people talk to me, when I hear people talk in our group calls, I can hear in their language what their beliefs are, right? So our language points to our beliefs, and our beliefs shape our outcomes 100% of the time. So if you believe that something is not going to work for you, it most likely will not work for you. And there's many reasons for this, not just simply on an energetic level, but it's the actions that we take. And so our words or our language or our beliefs can be working against us, right? They're working against your goals. And so when somebody asks me, will this work for me, X, Y, Z? Well, it depends on what you believe. Like, some people believe that things need to be so complicated, that a diet needs to be so restrictive in order to work. And if that's your belief, then you will find something restrictive and then it will work for you, right? But it can work for you without the restriction, okay? By really looking at your beliefs. And the quickest way that we can do that is through our language and the words that we use. And often it's very invisible to people because your beliefs are second nature to you. You don't often see them, right? They look real. And so therefore they become invisible and very hard to get awareness of and very hard to conquer. So our words and the words that we use to describe ourselves or our life or what we want or our goals or what's possible for us becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. So negative language keeps you trapped in your limitations. So if you say, I'm too old, it's never going to happen for me anyway, I've always had issues sleeping, I've always had issues losing weight, all women in perimenopause gain weight, right? I'll never figure this out. I'm hopeless at this. I've always been hopeless at this. Like, it will be very subtle, but it's something that you have thought for a long time and you don't even realize it's coming through in your language. Again, it's pointing to what you believe. And in order to get the results and create the life that we want, we have to look at these beliefs, right? We have to turn them on their head because a belief is just something that you've thought a lot. That's all it is. It's a thought. It's a repetitive thought that you've thought so many times that it looks real and it looks real about you, but it's really just a thought. And so I'm not saying that you have to turn your language around to speak all positive and flowery and fluffy and all good things about yourself, which you feel like, I don't really believe that. But at least be aware of the language that you're using and not to say it anymore. There is real power in that. And I'm going to show you on a scientific level how much power it has on our physical body. So your beliefs drive your commitment, your action, and your results. Remember how I said it's a self-fulfilling prophecy? That is because if you don't believe you can achieve something, you won't fully commit. You won't do all the things that are required to get the results because there's a part of you that's already got one foot back out, right? You're not believing that it's going to work for you. So I often take women through this exercise where I trigger this way of thinking to see, like, trigger their motivation. So ask them different questions. If this would happen and that would happen, and you were, if you were to win $1 million at the end of losing this weight, what would you do differently? Like, if you would work much harder at it. You would take all the steps required. You would do all the meal preps. You would wake up in the morning. You would have time to meal prep. You would make time, right? And so that question was really to tap into motivation, but to really show you that if you believed you would get those results, you would take all the steps. And when we don't truly believe, we actually don't take all the steps. We're not fully committed. We're not all the way in, and therefore we drop steps. We don't show up fully. I've done this myself, right? I've done this in my business when I don't think this is really going to work. I put something out there and I think that's not going to work. And I can see that I don't execute the plan as I would for something else, right? Actually, don't send all the emails. I won't do that webinar or masterclass. Maybe I'll shorten the timeline. Let's just close it up now. That's because I don't believe it's going to work. And then I don't follow through on my actions. So your beliefs, which are linked to your words, so your words will show you what you're believing, determine the actions you do or don't take, and then will determine your results and your outcome. So as I said, when we're looking at making changes, so when it comes to physical health or mental, emotional health, we're looking at things, like I say, on the 3D, not the 5D. So when I say 3D, I mean on the physical level, right? If I take this supplement, if I eat this specific food, if I follow this protocol or the exact same strategy that somebody else followed, it should work for me too. And when it doesn't, you may think, well, what is wrong with me? Or what is wrong with this program, right? And the thing is, many people just focus on the physical. The visible, the tangible, the things that we can measure, like food and lab tests and exercise routines and supplements. But there are things happening on an energetic level that are invisible, that we can't see, and this is where our language comes into it. I want to give you some scientific examples. You would have heard of the placebo effect, right? So this is where in scientific studies, when they're testing drugs or a surgery, they give, one part of the group, they give them the surgery or the medication, and the other part, they give them a sugar pill or a sham surgery. And the placebo effect has been proven to be just as effective and sometimes more effective than the actual medication, okay? And so since the 1960s, the placebo effect has been a bit of a pain in the side of scientific literature, because there is something really powerful here with the suggestion that someone may be getting a medication, that they may be getting the results of a surgery, but actually they didn't have them. So it's the power of the mind to create those physical changes based on words, based on language, based on what somebody told you, right? So you can see on the other side of this, there's also the nocebo effect. And this is where, through the power of words, we can create physical changes in somebody that are harmful. They've looked at scientific studies where they've told patients, you are taking a chemotherapy solution. And so there was two groups again. One half was receiving a chemotherapy solution, the other half were having a saline. And the people that received saline were losing their hair and vomiting, okay? And so they had no medication. And then they also did this to patients. They said, you're taking a medication to stop you from vomiting, so people who were really sick with nausea and vomiting. And the control group, what they actually gave them was something to induce vomiting called Ipecac. And the patients with nausea and vomiting actually stopped vomiting, it's just to show the power of not suggestibility, but our words and our beliefs, right? If we believe that we're taking medication that will help us, it will create some positive physical changes. If we believe that we're taking something or doing something that is negative or harmful to us, it will create a harmful change in our body. And so when you think about when some people go to the doctor and just that white coat syndrome and they get their blood pressure checked, their blood pressure goes up, right? And so there's something that's happening on an energetic level that's creating a physical, measurable change in the body. And one more example, which I think is completely it's huge, right? So they did a placebo study. They were testing the effectiveness of a surgery for osteoarthritis on the knee. So an orthopedic surgeon in the US who was, famed as being one of the best orthopedic surgeons, that he could do the best surgery, the best knee surgery, and he was the best at doing this, right? And so he wanted to test and get data on how effective his procedures were. And so he did a study, and it was against placebo and against his surgery. And so what they did, they split the group and they took those in for surgery. So everyone thought, no one knew whether they were getting the surgery or not. And the patients that didn't have the surgery, but they were wheeled into the operating theatre, they were cut open and they saw this. They saw themselves in the operating theatre And when they woke up, there was an incision in their knee, right? But they didn't have the surgery. And they found at the end, when they looked at the data, actually the patients that did not receive the surgery had better outcomes and better recovery. They were up and running around faster and better than the people that actually had the surgery for their osteoarthritis. Again, the power of the mind when it believes something to create a physical, measurable change in the body. So I'll often say to my clients, when I can hear them talking negatively, it's like punishing, right? And I try to show them the power of their language. And I say to them, would you ever say about the person next to you, gosh, I wish they got sick, or I wish they were in a car accident? I mean, I don't even like to say it here on this podcast, but you wouldn't say it, right? It feels wrong. It feels like there's energy behind that. It feels like casting a spell. And that is because you know on a deeper level that our words carry energy. And so we want to be careful with the words that we choose. We want to be careful of how we speak to ourselves, because most of the things that we think and that we feel about ourselves are untrue. They're just things that we've been thinking for a long time, okay? It doesn't make them more true. It just means we've been stuck on the same thought for a long time. So I want you to leave me a comment if this is resonating with you, and think about the times when you've gone to pursue a goal, whether it's a health goal, a weight loss goal, a fitness goal, or something in your life, and actually your negative language, like maybe it's even on the dating scene, maybe it's like, there is no good man anymore, or I'm too old and all the good ones are taken, whatever it is, right? But have a look at where your limiting beliefs are coming through in your language and how you can change that conversation, right? How you can stop yourself from saying those things out loud. Like, it's easier to stop yourself saying out loud than it is to try and rewire the thinking in your mind, okay? But to have awareness of that and not bring those words out and use it in your language. Leave me a comment below and let me know.